Good afternoon, YouTube. So, guys, today we're going to be looking at the Insta 360 4K edition action cam. So, I've been looking to replace my old GoPro Hero 3 Black that I've been using for some time, and image quality is just kind of not there anymore, and it's time to upgrade. But with Meeker Extreme having a lot of problems here recently with his GoPro Hero 8, I think, the newest one. He's had a lot of overheating issues, it not recording, so on and so forth. So he's been pretty frustrated, so I decided to go a different route. I went with the Insta 360. Not paid for by anybody or sponsored or anything like that, out of my own pocket. And I only got the 4K edition, which is just a wide angle 4K lens. So this is, I guess, their cheapest action camera. And that's perfect for me. That's all I'm really looking for. I know some of the 360 and the twin edition and the bigger lens, they might be things we'll look at down the road, but for now, this is what I'm going for with the mic adapter. And we'll talk about this one a little bit because I've seen a lot of kind of funny reviews on this mic adapter. So before we break into opening this thing up, I think first and foremost we'll kind of go over its main features. So on the front of the box here, 4K 60, pretty standard with action cams now, especially for right around that $300 price point. 12 megapixel pictures, if I can talk. Their flow state stabilization is supposed to be pretty awesome. A lot of people say that they like it better than GoPros. I'm pretty excited to try it out. And the camera itself is waterproof to 16.4 feet. And they do have cases that, of course, allow you to go diving with this much deeper. I just needed to be waterproof to strap it to my helmet for dirt biking, so I don't really care. So we'll look on that side. It's kind of the more of the same, except for the slow motion stuff, night shot. This is actually something I do like right here is the modules. I guess you can change the lenses. This unplugs out of there. The battery, of course, comes out the bottom, and then the screen you can either flip it behind or in front of this. Like it's pretty versatile. Like I think I like the concept at least. So what it comes with in the box, so you get your charging cable, the core, which is the thing with the screen, and the 4K wide angle mod, the battery case, and the mounting bracket. So the mic adapter, we'll talk about that real quick here. So the thing that is important to know, and this applies to GoPro as well, you have to really use a powered microphone with these, or a very low impedance unpowered microphone, otherwise you won't be able to hear it. So this one, a lot of people give this mic adapter on Amazon like 1-star reviews because they're unpowered, cheap mics don't work. Yeah, so, and that's a really simple thing. Powered lapel mics are actually relatively cheap. I use one on my helmet. I just mount the little modules velcroed to the back of the helmet. It's actually not obtrusive. I've used the same microphone for a lot of years now, and it's decent for what I use it for. So that's an important thing to note with this, is more than likely you're going to want to use a powered mic with it. So keep that in mind. There you go. That's what you initially see in the box. Got a little thing at the bottom, the action cam core. It's got a little lens cover on it, and the battery. Cool. And so here you have the core unit, and on the outside here you have the 2 plugs for it, which means you can face it either way. So me, I'll probably use it this way so I can see it easier while I'm riding with my mirrors and stuff. I suppose it technically goes that way. And then this is a really small battery. In fact, this looks a lot smaller than I would have guessed from the pictures. Comes with a standard USB-C like that. And then in here you're going to get your standard kind of mounting stuff and the hardware. Take a quick gander. So this mounting bracket is plastic. Nothing Nothing super crazy about that. All right, and it also pops open. Hopefully we can see that there. This little door's got a switch on it, and it pops open. So, kind of handy. This is going to be the SD card door, so you just kind of pop it, and it pops open nicely there. So it's got the charging cable right there, as well as where your SD card goes. The only concern here is that if you're using the mic adapter, this has to be open, which means it's probably not waterproof anymore. And that's a common problem. Even I've always had with the GoPros of having to drill the cases to be able to use it. Kind of a bummer. I don't much care for that design. They should have put the SD card somewhere else. But we'll fire it up, and I'll finish my review video on the bike, and we'll check out the footage at the end.
Oh, fuck. It's okay, I'm just laying down. You alright? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Oh, shit. Oh. Oh. It's like... So we're going to be testing out the kind of battery life and just overall usage of this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the good and bad of this camera so far. So the 1R so far has been pretty kind of a cool camera. I've been using it just at home for a few days, and yeah, so out here is kind of the first real world test, but I have enough experience with the files and kind of I've tried out battery life that yeah, I've got a good, pretty good handle on it, I think now. Test with the image quality. Now, we're talking about dual sport in here. Probably the most important thing to note is that, you know, 4K 60 really for us moto vloggers isn't really a thing. 4K 60 takes a lot of power and it gets the cameras very hot, and both the GoPro and this camera in their stock form both overheat. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer. But and the battery life is just, even with the bigger battery pack, you're talking 2 hours record time tops. So that's just kind of not for me. But 2K 60 so far, I think has shows promise. On the stock battery, 2K 60 you can get about 2 hours and 11 minutes was my average for this camera. That's pretty decent for a small battery. That means the bigger battery would last about 4 hours 20 minutes or so. I can do that. So battery life's good. 2K 60. I'm a huge fan of that so far. So this is where it becomes fun. Huh. Guess we're gonna talk later. Missed the gear. Alright guys, so after my dumbassery, made it to the lovely mine processing right here. Beautiful. Yeah, I hope this comes out on camera good. Well guys, welcome to Mosquito Pass. Alright. Whew. Yeah.
Not too much further.
It's hard to breathe. That's where I'm having a hard point. Still got some snow up here. Check that out, guys. I'm now at 13,122. There's no air up here. Alright guys, so made it up to the top of Mosquito Pass, and Indian elevation's 13,185 feet. It is quite the little climb. It's not super long, but boy, it did kick my ass, that's for sure. I knocked a turn signal off the beta, so we'll have to figure that out later on. But yeah, it's quite a ways up here. It's pretty cool. All right, guys. So yeah, I still wanted to do the review on this video because it's just great up here. But yeah, so some of the pros of this camera are probably the image. Like I said, we talked about earlier, and I got distracted. The image quality is really good.
I think the battery life's very acceptable. I think the user interface for the camera is good, except for the screen is small, so it kind of makes it fiddly, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. And one of the musts with this camera is you're gonna have to do a make sure you get a V30 certified SD card. It's got to be at least 100 megabytes read-write speed on the SD card, otherwise you'll have problems. So yeah, that's very, very important. A lot of people have had SD card read errors and stuff with this camera, so you can't use your old SD card out of your GoPro Hero 4 that you've been using for 10 years, or 5 years, whatever. You can't do that no more. Yeah, that's pretty good. And as far as an action cam, I think it's pretty solid. How about some of the cons? The software rendering the 360 app that they give you on PC allows you to use it as a basic editor. I highly recommend not doing that. It's not very efficient, and pretty much any of your other free video editors are far superior. If you're looking for an action cam for doing this kind of stuff for dual sporting, I actually think this might be a better option than the GoPro right now. The battery options seem to be a little bit better, and the overheating does not seem to be as bad on this camera. Oh yeah, speaking of overheating, so 4K 60 recording still, it gets pretty hot. So the community has figured out that you can put a Raspberry Pi processor heatsink on this thing, and it'll keep it from overheating. Now, that kind of seems dumb, I know, but believe it or not, it's a really innovative solution that only costs $10. So if you really want to run 4K and have it hooked up to a battery bank, then yeah, there you go, you got an option. But hopefully you guys are enjoying the footage. I figured this would make a good review video. Some other notes, the app that goes with the Android iOS. So to activate this camera, you got to have the app on your smartphone. So another thing that I've noticed is the company Insta360 seems to have been really doing a good job to support this camera, like with software updates, whatever. Yeah, guys, check that out. It's so fucking beautiful. It's awesome. The low light performance, I think, is subpar compared to GoPro. I think indoors in low light scenarios, the GoPro probably definitely has the edge. This camera's got a lot of going for it, but even the GoPro, a lot of people have been unhappy with the Hero 8, and they got a long ways to go. Action cams in general have a long ways to go, but it's good to see the progress, and I think more good stuff. But so far, I definitely recommend it. If we have any issues or deal breakers, I'll let you know. Actually, I just thought of another con. It just came to me, which is it's the so when you're continuously recording, the 360 Action 360 records in 30-minute chunks, which is great and all, but then when it goes to start a new clip, there's about a 2-second gap between the clips, which means if you're in the middle of talking, like I often do while I'm writing, you'll have a gap where you'll be missing a couple seconds. That's a big annoyance for me. Now, it's not a deal breaker because it's only a couple of seconds, and I think the chances of that happening between 30-minute clips is pretty low, so I'm not going to damn the camera for that. But yeah, you really gotta, it's just an important thing to know, because nobody, I think, that I've watched of reviews of this have talked about that. But for moto vlogging, it seems like this thing's gonna be a winner. Alright guys, just breaking into the review real quick. I know you've been watching some of my writing and stuff, but I wanted to show something that's kind of one of the more annoying aspects. I talked a little bit about it in the video, the INSV file format that you have to use with the Insta360 1R with its full stabilization characteristics and 60 frames per second footage. I mean, I have a pretty, my computer here is for the nerds out there is a Ryzen 7 2700X system with 32 gigs of RAM, 3200 megahertz, and a 2070 Super. So it's a pretty beefy system. I would put this as a modern high-end system. Not the highest you could go, but it's a pretty good, $1,500 PC that I built myself. But the problem that I have is that when we moto vlog and things like that, we shoot hours of footage a lot of times. Now we try to cut back and forth, but sometimes we want to either, cut through footage, or, we want to be able to capture moments that may happen randomly. So we have hours and hours of footage. So the Mosquito Pass footage here, I have close to 5 hours of footage, about a little over 4.5 hours, I think is what I actually captured. But the problem that I have with this file format is Adobe Premiere Pro has a plugin for the INSV file format, but doing the raw footage editing of it and previewing the footage is very slow and choppy. It's unusable, to be honest, and that's a common problem. You can go out on the internet and look that up. It's something that basically Premiere's workaround to that is to create a proxy file. Well, a proxy file in Premiere Pro is basically a low-resolution copy of the file that you can edit and have smooth playback with, which is obnoxious, to say the least. So I did a test render in H.265 at 101 Mbps, which is really high. I get it, YouTube doesn't support that, but I like to have high-quality source files for my own personal record. And once it's converted to an MP4 file with H.265, it runs flawlessly in Premiere Pro. So it's the INSV plugin that is the problem, which means that you can't work with raw footage in Premiere as far as an action camera. And I kind of feel that's a big issue that I need to bring as far as this camera for moto vloggers. I think this is it could be a deal breaker to some, and this is how you have to do it. What's going on in the background here? We'll take a look. So right here we have, right now I am rendering all of my footage from the Mosquito Pass stuff. Now I got some extra video footage too, and I just have hardware monitor up for reference here. We can move that out the way. But you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 files. These are each about a half hour long, some are a little bit shorter. And we're rendering 5 at the same time. So the Insta360 software, much to its credit, I'll give it, allows you to render 5 simultaneous videos at the same time, which means that I can max out my Ryzen 7 3700X 8-core 16-threaded processor, 100% load, and it's using about 15 gigs of RAM. It does spike up past 20 though at certain times, so I would highly recommend, if you're going to do this kind of workflow, to have 32 gigs of RAM. Now my concern is H.265 on Premiere Pro when you're rendering is a lot more GPU heavy as far as video encode. So right now it's only doing the 12% encode for video, which is kind of concerning. It's also using a lot of video memory. So it is doing something, but I feel like it's not as efficient as the way that Premiere Pro encodes. I don't know. I mean, it's a free program, so I'm guessing CUDA acceleration only goes so far with that kind of a thing. Now, my concern here is that this is a lot of footage, and a lot of us that ride like this and capture footage, we have a lot of footage, and it's true we don't use a lot of it. But when random events happen, or as we're going through a ride, we like to be able to pick that stuff out and always be recording. So sure, I'll scrap a lot of this footage, but if I'm using a GoPro, I can, it's in MP4 format, I can have the full motion stabilization without any weird formats, and then I can work with it right away in Premiere Pro. This, I have to do this process first, and that's, in a way, I think it's really unacceptable that they don't allow you to record an MP4 format with full stabilization and 60 frames per second. I just, I'm not a fan of that. and it's sad because this camera is so close. Its quality, once uploaded to YouTube especially, is identical to the Hero 8. Once it's compressed and its stabilization is different, I don't think it's necessarily worse than the Hero 8. The Hero 8 has more of a floaty factor to it, and the 1R gives, I think, a little bit more realism to its stabilization. It's a personal opinion. I know a lot of people talk about that, but I actually like the stabilization on the 1R, I think, better. But its standard stabilization is horrible, though. So I wouldn't recommend that at all. And having to do this process just before I can edit, this is 5 hours of rendering for this PC, which is a high-end PC. And somebody who has a lower-end PC or is working off a laptop or something, this is kind of unacceptable. This would probably take 10, 12, 13, 14 hours. And yeah, that's gonna change how I want to record. It's gonna change how I want to use this camera. Now, I think I'm gonna try to stick with it, and because 1R has offered a lot of updates over time to fix a lot of things wrong with their camera and update stuff. So I'm gonna provide feedback, of course, like everybody else has done in the community, and this video to them, and you know, hopefully they can get to where we can use their full suite of tech without having to go through this render process. At the very least, they could make the plugin for Premiere Pro solid so that we can edit raw files. I would be okay with that as well. But not everybody uses Premiere Pro, so I don't know, maybe a more generic plugin. But I think the MP4 format's the way to go. And I know I said I was editing in H.265. You know, I had went to that with 1080p as well as 1440/30 footage just because of the GPU acceleration in Premiere Pro was much quicker than doing H.264, so that's the only reason I had switched to that format. I'm probably going to go to H.264 again, even though the files are a little bit bigger, and see if it changes my workflow a little bit. Yeah, we'll have to play with that a little bit more as well. I'm a little disappointed in this, but we'll update as we go with this review. But once again, thanks for watching, guys.
Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed my unboxing and review of the Insta360 4K camera. We'll be shooting a lot here up on this thing. So I'm pretty excited to get more good footage and play around with stuff. And more mines, look at that. I'm pretty excited for that actually. So thank you for watching, and please like, subscribe, and share my videos. It helps me out, and you know, I just need a few more to get to 1,000, so if you guys can share these videos out there, it helps me out a lot. And I appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. Ferret Face out.